Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 7, Knowledge of the Absolute. And we are going to cover verses 16 through 18. Verse number 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janah sukritino arjuna arto jignarsu artharti jnani cha bharata rishabha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Once again, thank you all so much for joining. And I really appreciate accommodating. Instead of Tuesday, we have the class on Wednesday this week. And I appreciate that. Thank you. So we see in previous week, we heard about 4 kinds of people who do not surrender unto Krishna. Anamam dushkriti no mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya aprita jnanam asuram bhavam ashrita. So there were 4 kinds of people who did not surrender to Krishna. But now today is the positive side. Here Krishna is talking about 4 kinds of people who do surrender to Krishna. And he calls them Jana Sukritino. Sukritino, they are pious people. That means they have collected a lot of piety from their previous life or this life. And so they are more inclined towards surrendering unto Krishna. And what are those 4 kinds of people? The first one is distressed. Most of us, we think about the Supreme Lord only when we are in distress, like, oh God, please help me, So Krishna says it's okay. If we are in distress, we can still come to him and he can help us. So the first kind is distressed. Distress could be, physical, mental, emotional. It could be in any form. And then he says one who desires to have money, wealth. So here is an open invitation that if you want money, you can go to Krishna. So he says the one who is distressed, one who wants money, one who is inquisitive, someone, and that is the purpose of human life. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. We need to be inquisitive. Inquisitive about what? What is the stock market? No, not about that. What we need to be inquisitive about is, who am I? Where have I come from? What is the purpose of my living in this material world? And what is my goal? Where do I go from here? So that this person who is inquisitive, Krishna says, is a pious person. That person also surrenders unto me. And finally, one who wants knowledge. Of course, the one who wants knowledge is the best. Because when we see, if we are distressed, we come to the Lord, which is also good, but then we are asking him for a favor. We want his mercy. We want him to remove our distress, and there's nothing wrong with that. But here, Krishna will, in the next few verses, will explain to us that out of these 4, one who is trying to get knowledge about me is the best. So all these pious souls, they are following some sort of regulative principles, moral, social laws, more or less, and they are kind of devoted to God. They, come to the Supreme Lord for different reasons, as Krishna explains: distressed, wants money, inquisitive, and one who wants knowledge. So here we can see that when these four kinds of pious people surrender unto Krishna. Now, what does it mean, surrender? Does that mean we just bow down our head? No, that's not surrender. That is also good, but that's not good enough. Surrender means following the instructions. When we follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, now there may be different reasons out of these four. We may be, one of these four pious people, but then Krishna says, as one starts understanding the Bhagavad Gita and putting it into practice, then there's going to be purification, gradual purification. So it's not that, all these four pious kinds of people are pure devotees. They are not pure devotees, but at least they are trying to understand the Supreme Lord. They may have some personal desires, like I need this, that, or whatever. They may want something in exchange for their devotion to Krishna. And that is also okay. It's better than not, surrendering to Krishna. But when we have this exchange policy, that, okay, God, I'm going to do this for you, and I want you to do this for me in return. That's okay. But it's kind of a business, I do this for you, you do this for me. But when we come to this platform of, starting our devotion, trying to love the Supreme Lord, then what will happen? Gradual purification, all the dirt which is in the heart, it could be in any amount, any degree, it could be any one of the unwanted things like lust, anger, greed, pride, whatever it may be, in whatever degree, that will start getting purified. And that will happen when we start associating. You see, if I start associating with someone who likes to drink a lot, then gradually I will also develop that desire to drink. If I start associating with someone who likes music, then gradually my interest towards music also will start. So this is very natural. Association really plays an important role in our life. So when we start associating with devotees, when we start associating with those who are following the Bhagavad Gita, then we will start developing the desire to understand the Bhagavad Gita. But if we do not come in association with spiritually minded people, then there will be no start to our devotional service, right? But here Krishna is saying this verse that I read today, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna. These pious people, sukritino, pious people, they are these four kinds, and it is okay to surrender to Krishna, even though we may have some material desires, but gradually one will develop love for him. Now, the best thing is to just, understand the Bhagavad Gita, put it into practice. Understand in the sense, it's not blind faith. It's not just because I say something, it's written in stone. No, we contemplate on what we are hearing or what we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita. Is it making sense? Is it something that is doable, or is it something that's not doable? Then we contemplate on it. And then when we have that little faith, it's because you all have faith. That is why today you are here to understand the Bhagavad Gita. Now, we need to nourish that faith. We need to water that faith. And that watering process is hearing more and more and more. Now, in the very next verse, number 17, Krishna says, of these, he's talking about these four kinds of people: distressed, one who wants money, one who is inquisitive, and one who wants knowledge. These are the four kinds of people who are considered to be pious. Now he says, of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who's always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. So here, Krishna is giving us an indication how we can become dear to him and how he can become dear to us. So first criteria is full knowledge, which means we try to understand the Bhagavad Gita from chapter 1 till chapter 18, all the 700 verses, step by step we understand. For instance, we hear about who we are. We are the spirit soul in chapter 2. And then chapter 3, we hear about karma yoga. In chapter 5 also, again, karma yoga. Krishna explains to us how we should perform work so that it is karma free. There are no reactions, neither good nor bad. So we come to that stage. Chapter 4 talks about the history of the Bhagavad Gita and how we must approach a bona fide spiritual teacher and try to understand the purpose of human life. So here we get full knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is saying one who has full knowledge. Now, when we have full knowledge, then the automatic reaction would be we will start engaging in pure devotional service. And the very first step of devotional service is mantra meditation. In most of my classes, I explain the meaning of mantra. Man means mind, and tra means to free the mind of all anxiety. So when we chant the holy names of Krishna, then what happens? All the anxiety that we may be facing all vanishes. And then we start on the path of pure devotional service. And Krishna says that is the best. And when we have full knowledge and we are putting theory into practice, then we become very dear to Krishna. Now, Srila Prabhupada says that the other three, like those who are distressed, who want money, and who are inquisitive, all these three can also come to the level of pure devotion in the association of spiritually minded people. So if we take on the knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita and put it into practice, which is actual devotional service, then there's definitely going to be purity. And when one is coming to that level of purity, then one will be able to come to the level of self-realization. And that is our goal, to realize ourselves. Theoretically, we understand I'm not this body and I'm the spirit soul. But how do we realize that? For that, we need to go to the step 1, which is mantra meditation. Now, if one is situated in pure knowledge, then Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna protects our devotional service, which means there will be no more contamination. And what kind of contamination? What I was just talking about: lust, anger, greed, etc. Let's see what Krishna says in verse number 18. He says, all these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. But he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So here we have the formula or the process by which we can go back to our original home, which is the spiritual world. So here, Krishna is calling these devotees as magnanimous souls, you see, and they are situated in knowledge, which means whatever practice they are, engaged in, that is based on knowledge. It is not based on blind faith. Just like when I was little, my parents, or whatever process they were following, they just would ask me and my siblings to just follow. And when we questioned them, why should we do what you are asking us to do? They had no answer for that, unfortunately. Why? Because they didn't have access to Bhagavad Gita. They were just following what they had learned from their ancestors. So it's just, okay, this is what we need to do on Monday. This is what we do on Tuesday, etc., etc. But there was no backing of knowledge. So there was no understanding. So for us, we were just following it as a ritual because we had no idea why We are doing what we are doing, but we were doing it because it was something spiritual and because the parents asked us to do that. So it's very, very, very important that we take on knowledge and understand what we are doing. So here Krishna says, if such magnanimous soul is situated in perfect knowledge, that a soul is just like my own self, just like the Supreme Lord Krishna. And he gives a guarantee that such a person will surely attain me, which means such a pure devotee, after giving up this body, will go back to the spiritual world, which is actually the abode of the Supreme Lord. And towards the end of the verse, Krishna says that this is the highest and most perfect goal. Highest and most perfect goal. So you see, so here we have a very clear path, how that is, we need to make a choice and decide that, okay, here is a path, just like in GPS, we put in the address and then GPS gives us directions. Okay, now turn right, left, take this exit or whatever to help us reach our goal. So if we make our most perfect, highest goal to be Krishna Loka, where the Supreme Lord is, the spiritual world, then this is the path. Here Krishna is showing us the way. He's like the one, the lady in GPS who tells us, turn right, left, or whatever. So that actually is our original home. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, punarjanma, which means coming back into this material world. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that someone who understands in truth my appearance and my activities, that person, after giving up this body, does not come back into this material world, but attains to my spiritual abode. So here is Bhagavad Gita explaining to us that how we can go back to our original home, Punar Janma, no more coming back into this material world. And all those who come to Krishna through Bhagavad Gita, they, Krishna says, are very dear to me. And they are considered to be Mahatmas. You know who is a Mahatma? Mahatma is a great soul, is an elevated great soul. Maha Atma. Atma is the soul. Maha means great, great soul. And Bhakti Yoga is actually a very rare process, in the sense not everyone is interested. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhai yatatam episidhanam kaschit mam veti tatvataha. He says that out of thousands and thousands of men, hardly one tries for perfection. And out of thousands and thousands who have attained perfection, Krishna says hardly one knows me in truth. So Bhakti Yoga is very, very rare. So all of us in this call, we are all very fortunate that we have this opportunity to hear the Bhagavad Gita and be able to break the cycle of birth and death and go back to the spiritual world. Now, if one tries to go on this path while asking for something in exchange, from Krishna, like, okay, I'm in distress, please remove my distress. I want money, please give me money. I'm inquisitive, I want to know everything. Or in knowledge, Krishna says, no problem. We want something in exchange for devotional service, that is also okay. And then what will happen when we start performing devotional service, starting with mantra meditation, then when the purification takes place in the heart, then we will have no more a desire to do business with God. We will no longer, want the Supreme Lord to be our provider, in the sense, okay, we have a shopping list and we tell him, okay, this is all I want from you, God, and then please do this, and this for me. Yes, okay, but that's actually a business with him. But when there is affection for Krishna, when there is, love developing because of practicing devotional service, then that is what brings about satisfaction. So if one is in full knowledge of Krishna, then Krishna says, such a person is very dear to me. And what is the only purpose of such a devotee is to serve with love and devotion. Now in chapter 9, we will see where Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakteya prayachiti. So he says, if someone offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, he says, I will accept it. But what is the most important ingredient in that service? It is love and devotion. It's not that Krishna is hungry and he needs someone to feed him, no. Supreme Lord has everything. He's fully satisfied. He's Atmaram. He doesn't need any service. But just to give us an opportunity to be able to perform devotional service, he gives us knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. So he says that such a person, a devotee who is trying to be on this path of bhakti yoga, Krishna says, such a person is always in my heart, and I am in the heart of such people. Now, from the scriptures, we have heard that Krishna is situated in the heart of everyone as a super soul. In chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, we will hear, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto. Krishna says, I'm situated in everyone's heart, every living entity's heart as the super soul. So here we may say, okay, Krishna is there in the heart as super soul. Then where is the question of, him coming to our heart? He's already there. But the realization comes with devotional service. Right now, yes, theoretically, we know that the Lord is in the heart, but we have not yet realized it. And to realize it, that is why Bhakti Yoga is important, where we perform Bhakti Yoga. And then, then once we come to that stage, then there is nothing more to be known. Then it's going to be the, what you call a golden rule. Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya na jatuchit. What will happen? Then always we will be remembering Krishna, and because we'll be remembering him, we will never forget him. That is the golden rule. So Bhagavad Gita is actually teaching us step by step on how to eat, how to work, how to walk, how to talk, how to control the mind and the senses, how to really put it into practical devotional service so that we can cleanse the mirror of our heart, become purified. And then while living in this body, in this material world, we can still be happy and peaceful. In fact, in chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Ishvara means God, Maha Ishvara. Maheshwara means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna says, I am Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one understands that and performs devotional service for me, then he says, Shantim Richati. That is a peace formula. Then a person will be very happy and peaceful, even while living in this world, living with the family. You see, the best part of Bhagavad Gita that attracted my husband and I was that in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna that you just do your prescribed duty. You don't need to, run away from your duty. You don't need to go to the Himalayas to meditate. You don't need to give up your family, nothing at all. Do your work, but do it in different consciousness in such a way so that there are no reactions. So we were like, oh, okay, that means we don't need to give up our jobs. That means we don't have to give up our family, our child, or anything. We can still live in our family life, but just change the consciousness. Put the Supreme Lord in the center of our lives. A nice example I can give is, say, there is a big glass jar, and there are certain items that we need to put inside that glass jar. So there is a big rock, there are small stones, there are pebbles, and then there is sand. So if we want to put everything inside nicely so that everything fits in nicely, it is important that we take the big rock and put it inside first because it is big. Then when we put the stones and pebbles, they will find their way around that big rock. And sand, of course, should be the last, which will definitely find its way all the way in the glass jar, all different directions. So what is that big rock? That big rock is Krishna, Bhakti Yoga. When we put Bhakti Yoga as our topmost priority, then everything else like family life, social life, office life, everything will automatically fall in place. We don't need to we won't have to struggle hard for that. So we can understand that Bhagavad Gita is giving us guidance, showing us how we can go back to our real home in a spiritual body. Right now, we have a material body, which, goes through old age and disease, is born and it dies. So all these miseries are there. But once we purify ourselves and at the time of leaving this material body, if we are able to get a spiritual body, then we go to the real home. And what's the best part of the real home, original home, which is the spiritual world? The best part is there is no birth, no disease, no old age, no death. These miseries are not there. So when we start practicing Bhagavad Gita, so hearing is really good, and I really appreciate y'all sincerely and seriously coming on every week to hear the Bhagavad Gita, to take on this knowledge. I really appreciate that. Now let's put it into practice, and that is why every time after the class is over, we do a little bit of mantra meditation, because mantra meditation is the very first step which will help us to go back home. Now, when we go on vacation, we are all excited when it is time to go on vacation. Packing is done, tickets, hotel, everything is done. And we are anxious, to go to the airport. Once we go to the airport, we are restless, anxious. When are we going to board the flight? I need to go. I need to go on vacation. I definitely need one. So when we are on board, then the anxiety is, when are we going to land? Because I need to start my vacation. Now, when we land there and go to the hotel and, stay for a few days, then we are anxious to get back home. How many of us love to come back home? Many times I hear, oh, I am so happy to be home in my own bed, in my own kitchen or whatever, that desire is there to come back home. Similarly, in spirituality, we should have that desire to go back home, back to our original home. So Bhagavad Gita is helping us to understand how exactly, first of all, who we really are. Until and unless we identify ourselves that I am this spirit soul, I'm not this body, then we go on to the next step and understand, how do I perform my actions, which is karma yoga. Actions, which means I perform a karma. A karma means I follow the instructions that are given in the Bhagavad Gita, and at the same time, I perform in the consciousness of Krishna, but I do not have a desire to enjoy the fruits of my activities. You see, the fruits will be enjoyed anyway. Let me give you an example. Say I feel like eating pizza. So there is no restriction in the Bhagavad Gita that you cannot eat pizza. Of course, there are certain restrictions as far as food goes, which we will learn more in chapter 9 and chapter 17. But let's take this example. Today, I feel like eating pizza. No problem. All I do is I prepare the pizza, I make the pizza, and then instead of trying to eat the pizza to enjoy myself, I first offer that pizza to Krishna. I offer to the Supreme Lord, so that anything that I might have done to, maybe any sinful action. Now, even vegetables have life. So supposing I took bell peppers, or I took some spinach, or, I took tomatoes, whatever it may be for the pizza, I have actually committed sin because I have cut those veggies. Now, to remove the reaction of that sinful action, I am offering the pizza to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. And he also says, Yagna Shishtashina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilvishe Bhunjate Tve Agham Papam. Papam means sin. He says, if you offer the food first to me before eating, then I take away the sin of killing those vegetables. And then what do we get in return? So then in return, after offering, I would get a pizza which is spiritualized, which is spiritual food. And then there is no reaction. So you see, chapter 3 and 5 teaches us how to perform our activities in such a way so that we do not incur any sinful reactions, because every action has a reaction. So here Bhagavad Gita is teaching us in a very simple way how we can lead our lives in such a way so that there are no more sinful reactions or bad reactions. So I'm actually going to end the class now. But before I do that, we will chant a little bit like we always do. And I'm going to post the links for those who are joining for the first time, who may not have these links. The Zoom link of our weekly classes, and then Facebook page where I post a lot of different, postings which are all spiritual. And then YouTube channel has the previously recorded lectures. And of course, there is the WhatsApp group where we post realizations on a daily basis. And finally is the Maha Mantra. And that Maha Mantra is what helps us in chanting more for purification of the heart. So I'll just chant for a few minutes, and I would humbly request that you also please chant with me, wherever you are, at home or work, and just feel happy and peaceful. So I'll just chant for a few minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So you see, it's very, very easy to chant. So if we can chant at least 10 minutes a day, we will see the difference, in our consciousness. We will see that we are more peaceful and happy. So that's my humble suggestion. And if anyone has any questions or comments, you're very welcome to ask.